56.6 million students will attend elementary school, middle school, and high school in the U.S. this year.
Today we take a look at the pros and cons of a 4-day school week.
And if homework is a good idea.
Today on Rob and Tristan's Foster Life.
Quiet on the set. Cue Rob and Tristan. Roll tape. Ready in 5. The conversation starts now.
Welcome today to Rob and Tristan's Foster Life. Boy, it's already the middle of the week and we got things rolling here. We kicked off Monday with the United States has gone to pot.
Right.
And we talked about foster parents and smoking the weed. And so many people were shocked. I went to a meeting the other day and there were several workers that have known me for a long time. And they said, I really thought you would be pro-pot. And I'm thinking, why would you think I would be pro-pot?
You want those people thinking you'd be pro anything like that.
Yeah, so anyway, that was kind of a funny thing. But if you missed that on Monday, you can go to fostertv.net and you can see the marijuana episode. We talk about how we should deal with that with the foster community and kind of work that over the grill.
Which I'm sure everybody's entertained about knowing about that, but I want to know about how the weight loss is going.
So the weight loss is going good. For those of you that didn't tune in to the season premiere, I have put out there that I'm going to lose 130 pounds on the show this year. And I'm not just doing it for me. I know that there's a lot of foster families, foster youth, and bio parents out there that are maybe not eating so healthy, and we're finding that when we eat healthier, we feel better, we have more energy, we think clearer, that type of stuff. And so I've said I'm going to step out and lose 130 pounds.
Which you've already lost 30.
Yeah, I've lost 30. I can't weigh again for another 30 days. So it'll be the end of March, and we'll weigh live here on the show.
Yeah.
But I got to tell you, my clothes are getting bigger. I'm down a pant size. So
I remember you just saying your clothes were not fitting as tight.
Yep.
Just
and then shirt-wise, I think I'm going to be down a shirt size here shortly. So I know I've taken off the weight, but I have no clue how much weight I've taken off at all. So we'll be curious to see how much I take off. But I'm going to do 130. Now, I can't tell anybody how I've taken the weight off.
Right. And not until it's all completely finished.
Yeah, when it's done, then we'll reveal how I did it. And the reason why we did that is we know at the first of the year that there's a lot of people that are trying new plans out there, and we don't want to derail you by trying to plan that I don't even know if it's going to work or not for me. But so far, it's doing really well for me, and I've seen a big change, so we can hope that we continue to go in the right direction.
Yep.
All right. So in the news, the LGBTQ plus bill is at the Supreme Court again.
Right.
It was just there last year.
Yeah, I was going to say, I know we had a conversation about that last year.
And so basically what they're reviewing is if your private agency is Christian-based, if you should be able to, if that agency should be able to deny you a foster license with their agency or adoptions with that agency.
And I just feel like, honestly, I mean, we should stop judging people. I mean, last year we talked about how there are statistics that showed that type of couple is actually more willing to take in somebody of that type, which I don't want to say that type. I mean, it's me judging almost, but you know what I'm saying is they're more willing to accept, and it seems like statistics have shown that they handle children good. I mean, there's no reason not to to deny somebody. Right,
and everybody has different things, and one isn't better than the other, but we've also seen with same-sex couples and hotlines, when people get hotlined for abuse and neglect and stuff, that actually our numbers are a lot lower with same-sex couples as well. And so that makes it kind of interesting. And I think one of the things that people forget is whether you believe in it or not, we have kids that are homosexual, transsexual, all of these different categories, and a lot of times we place those kids with same-sex couples because sometimes heterosexual couples aren't as willing to take them. And so, that kind of raises my curiosity. However, here's how I feel. If you're a Christian agency, private agency, and you don't believe in homosexuality, I'm not too sure that it's going to do anybody any good to license or do adoptions with same-sex couples and be forced to. And again, it kind of goes back to the judging thing. I just think it gives too much opportunity to judge and to raise down that stuff.
How many families are willing to accept children that are no longer available if you choose to make it to where those couples can't have children.
Right. When we come back today, we're going to be talking about schools going to a 4-day school week, and it's happening like crazy in Missouri.
And even less homework.
Yeah, we'll talk about it right after this.
Tomorrow's a super busy day. I have a court case review hearing at court with a friend. I have a meeting at the studio. I figured it out. Want to dance. Run that long. I'm the mama. The only way I can keep track of my day is to plan ahead.
60 districts in 25 states have one or more schools on a 4-day school week.
This leaves us with many questions. Here to help us weigh the pros and cons is Melissa Fieker, an educator for the last 25 years. Welcome, Melissa. How are you doing?
Thank you. I'm great.
So we have seen recently here in Missouri news of another school district going to a 4-day school week. And so my first reaction is, what in the world are we doing? So what are some of the pros that they found that they're doing this? Because it seems like, I mean, in the opening there, it's saying 25 states have already adopted some of this process. So what are we seeing that makes this a good thing?
Well, originally when we started talking about it in the district where I work, it was all about the money. And how much money we were going to save by not running buses all 5 days and not, feeding and having to run the kitchen. But the research has shown recently with more and more schools doing this that behavior issues have improved. Attendance for teachers and students have improved. When you've got that day that you can take your kid to the dentist on a Friday when there's no school, you're not pulling them out and they're not missing that instruction.
Right.
Teachers, if you teach all day and coach, you can't even go to the bank because you're not done before 5 o'clock. So it gives that day that those things can happen, and so there's less teacher absence.
What about the parents that can't provide childcare on those Fridays, or kind of, in some of these rural parts of America that I travel to, that lunch on Friday is a really important thing for their family because they're kind of stretched to their means. Does the school district, what did they say about that?
A lot of the school districts will provide daycare for that, maybe through the YMCA or through Big Brothers Big Sisters, and they'll have a program right at the school for that. A lot of schools have doggy bag kind of programs for over the weekends, or backpack programs where they send home food for the weekend. They'll just add to that and make it a 3-day instead of a 2-day pack.
Right. I was reading earlier today, and Colorado, Oregon, Washington, and I can't remember the other state, has adopted this well. And one thing that they do fear in some of the inner cities is that there will be a higher juvenile crime rate because of their going to this. And I guess the one thing that I think about is, are we preparing kids to think that, maybe when they get to a work situation, well, they're only going to want to work 4 days because they're used to only going to school 4 days a week and having that 3-day weekend.
Well, if I'm not mistaken, I think in a 4-day week you actually stay longer at school. So I mean, it could potentially get the kids prepared to work the longer hours of work.
Do you find the kids are more tired though, because they're going to have a longer day?
There has been some discussion of that, especially the younger grades, your kindergarten and first grade. So yes, we are going to have to go a longer time to meet the requirements. We don't want to, cut their education. We just want to make it more efficient. You might have to, with the new times, you might have an extra recess, or you might do a little bit of downtime. And that's going to depend a lot school by school and honestly class by class.
So are the teachers, when they do this, are they off that day too, or do they still go to work? Typically,
they'll use some of those, either Fridays or Mondays, whichever the district is, as some professional development. The district where I'm working, we will have one Friday a month where we will have to go in for professional development. The others we will have off.
Oh, okay. So it does kind of, I can see where that would kind of save a school district money that time.
Well, I know that in high school there's some kids that go and work also, and they could almost work a 40-hour work week if they have that day off.
Yes.
So that'd be nice.
And there are some opportunities there for extracurricular activities on Fridays that aren't available because it's just the weekend. So there are some job shadowing things that could happen that aren't taking away from your instruction time.
Good. Well, when we come back, we're going to talk about another issue that we kind of talked about online, but we're going to talk about homework. And the new poll out there says that we shouldn't be giving kids homework. We'll talk about it after this. 4 years ago, I had major surgery, and I decided at that time I was going to quit smoking. And I quit smoking cold turkey, but I kind of feel like I traded one addiction for another addiction. Although I was successful and I've not had any cigarettes in the last 4 years, I noticed that I started eating a lot more, and depending on food, when I had anxiety, stress, good times, bad times. I think the hardest thing for me is I've kind of watched myself become bigger over the last 4 years. So when I had that surgery, I was wearing a medium-sized shirt, and now I wear a double extra large shirt. When I had that surgery, I was in a size 30-30 jeans, and now I wear a size 37-30 jeans. And so I've watched myself become this bigger person, and I don't think your weight identifies you, but it definitely has health effects on you. The interesting thing is there's a lot of bigger, beautiful people in this world, and beauty defines you on the inside, outside. There's so many ways that beauty can define you, but people will come up to me and they'll say, "Oh my gosh, you have gained so much weight." Or sometimes when we're in the studio, I'll feel it makes me feel a little bit uncomfortable because I'll say, "Now make sure that camera is directly on Rob so that you don't see that weight in his belly." Or, "Rob, make sure to pull down your shirt because we want to make sure that looks flat so that you don't see any weight there." Sometimes we have to put props in front of me on my television show just because we're trying to hide this belly. And if you notice on Robin Tristan's foster life, I always wear black. Sometimes I'll see people that I haven't seen in a long time and they'll question if my health is okay because I've had health problems in the past, and they'll think that I'm dying or that I've gained all of this weight because of medications that I'm on and that type of thing. And the truth of the matter is I just eat too much, and I'm probably not eating correctly, and I'm not getting the exercise that this year I turned 50, and in the last 4 years I've seen a lot of things with my health change. I know that it's harder for me to breathe. Like if I go up and down the stairs, sometimes I'm winded. I've noticed that I can't walk as much without aches and pains, and that has to do with weight. And then I have a disease called TRAPS, and it's a rare fever disease. But I've noticed that we have a lot more outbreaks because I've gained more weight, and it's just more for my body to handle. And so I'm just not as healthy. And so I thought this year I turned 50. Actually, in just a couple of weeks I turned 50. And I thought I've always wanted to live to be 100. And that's my goal. I really want to live to be 100. I feel like if I live to be 100, my youngest daughter will be 53 years old, and she should be well on her way, and I'll be able to see a lot with my kids and spend a lot of time with my family and friends and kids. So that's the goal, is to live to be 100. But I'm not going to live to be 100 with being overweight the way I am. I'm 130 pounds. My name is Rob with Robin Tristan's Foster Life, and I want you to join me this season on my journey to lose 130 pounds. 2020.
In 2020, 20 million people are currently attending college in the United States.
As we all know, that means homework. And experts are now saying that we shouldn't give kids homework. That kind of concerns me because I was always taught that the reason you get homework in middle school and high school is to kind of prepare yourself for college, where you have a ton of homework. I mean, really, if you look at college, the learning process is very minimal in the classroom. You learn a lot of it through your studies and your outside homework and that type of thing. So what do you think?
Homework has a place.
Right?
I also believe that littles shouldn't have as much homework as the older kids.
Right.
There are different schools of thought here. No homework, then we have time for other things, other extracurricular activities. If you have homework, you can't get all those things done that are also make you a well-rounded student.
Mm-hmm. Right. But I also think about, I would kind of not like that if my kids didn't have homework, because sometimes as a parent, that's how I kind of key in to what they're learning about. You know, like Kyle came home and was talking about all the trash on Mount Everest, and then he had some homework and stuff like that. And so now I kind of know what he's working on at school, and I'm kind of tuned in to his day a little more. And I'm not sure if I would be so much if there wasn't homework. You see what I'm saying?
I kind of go both ways. It's like, yeah, they should have homework, and then again, no. But I could see where with having homework whenever I was in school, it was a time where I sat in a classroom and learned throughout that whole day, and now I get to sit at home and make sure that I've learned what I was just taught at school. So it's a good time to sit and reflect on what I just learned in class, and then it helps you learn more. Well then, you know, think about college. Well, they're doing a lot of classes online now. That's self-teaching yourself. So I almost feel like getting homework is teaching you how to self-teach yourself, and then you get into college and you're doing these college classes online.
Disciplining yourself to do what needs to be done.
Mm-hmm.
So if you could discipline yourself without homework, or discipline yourself to know when you need extra practice.
Mm-hmm.
You know, homework for a grade is another thing. Maybe the homework isn't for a grade. They're not going to do it.
Right. Exactly. And I also read in studies that we're finding more and more that playtime is key for kids. And I've said this for many years. I would go to travel to third world countries, and a lot of times you'll see teenagers still playing with Barbies and things like that. And so I'm finding from these experts online that we're kind of missing the boat, and we push our kids out of this playtime. And so by not having the homework, it allows more time for extracurricular activities and playtime and that type of stuff, because that's a really important part of learning. Is that correct?
Oh, yes. Yes, and even as kids get older, they're learning things through the sports that they do. They're going to dance classes, and they're going to gymnastics, and they're competing in different, all of that takes a good chunk of time and that's important. We're making well-rounded citizens to grow up and live in the United States with us.
Right. Well, if you would like to weigh in today about 4-day school weeks or homework, we would love to see all of your comments. I know that I've been out on some of your support group sites, and it's a very controversial issue. There's a lot of people that feel like me, that, you know what, school's been 5 days a week, it's a structured thing, it goes with the kind of the work week, and then there's a lot of people that are on the other side of that. And you know, I did a lot of study for this show, and I have to kind of eat my words, because some of the test scores are actually better with a 4-day school week than the 5-day school week. And that's very interesting, but I think time will tell.
It's very new. I think it's going to take a little time to see the outcomes.
Maybe worth having a conversation about it later on to see, what it's really done.
Right. Well, Melissa, thanks for joining us today. I hope that you'll come back for other things. We talk about school and all kinds of stuff that I think you would have some input in. And so we'll be back to wrap up right after this. About the 4-day school week and talking a little bit about homework. I'm kind of back and forth on the homework. I'm not sold on the 4-day school week.
Yeah, I don't know about that one.
Yeah, but I'll be interested to see what statistics show, and if our kids get a better education because of a 4-day school week, I'm definitely for that, because I think that education is so important. But we got a good show coming up the day after tomorrow. Right. We're going to be talking about parents that go MIA, missing in action, after we take kids in. And I guess I never really thought of it from their side. I always thought of it from the foster parent side. And so I think it's going to be an interesting show, because kind of almost gives me a little bit of a panic attack to talk about it, because I can't imagine if my parents would have just been gone and I didn't see them anymore. So I think it's going to be a good show.
Yep. And before we go, if you'd like to donate for some foster bags, you can just go to fostertv.net.
Yeah, and we are wanting, our goal this year is to give away 51,000 of the duffel bags and the little toiletry bags that we give. And then also to go to Washington and work on legislation that it will be illegal for foster kids to move with trash bags and grocery sacks in the foster care system. All right, we'll be back on Friday.
Help support Foster TV. Go to fostertv.net and make a donation today. Foster TV's My Story is a Hedfra production. Only on Foster TV.